There are books written to be read and books written to be feared. Most people look to the future for hope, for lottery numbers, for promises of peace. But 500 years ago, in a tower in France, a man looked to the future and felt only cold. Welcome, the lock secures. Turn down the volume of the outside world. This is the chest of legends. And today we're going to blow the dust off history's darkest prophecies. Michel of Notre Dame, Nostradamus, the plague doctor, the alchemist. We've been told his quatrains are vague, open to 1,000 interpretations, but that's what those afraid to read the literal truth say. I've spent entire nights deciphering the original texts, not modern translations, the raw verses, and a convergence is found, a year where the stars align for disaster. 2026. For this year 2026, Nostradamus doesn't describe the end of the world, he describes a purge. He speaks of 5 events, 5 seals that will be broken one after another, transforming the earth, the sea, and the blood of men. I'm not here to frighten you, I'm here to warn you, because the first rider Nostradamus saw for 2026 doesn't come on horseback, it comes in the air, invisible, silent. He called it the red wind. Are you ready to hear what the red wind says? Look at this stain here, do you see it? It could be spilled ink, it could be dampness. But knowing who wrote this, knowing that Michel of Notre Dame walked among corpses during the Great Plague with her beak-shaped mask filled with aromatic herbs so as not to smell the decay, I prefer to think it's dried blood. In Century 3, Quatrain 75, Nostradamus stops talking about kings and thrones, stops talking about politics, and starts discussing biology. Pau, Verona, Vicenza, Zaragoza, distant swords wet with blood reaching for the sky. Such a great plague will come, scab and pustule, relief near, but the cure far away. Scholars have been debating this for years, but there's a detail in the ancient translations. A recurring phrase for 2026 that most overlook. He calls it Levon Rouge, the red wind. I want you to imagine the air right now. Inhale, clean, invisible, innocent. We take for granted that air is life. But Nostradamus describes a morning in 2026 when the air will have weight. He describes a dawn where the sky won't turn blue, but a coppery color, a dirty, sickly orange, as if the atmosphere had rusted overnight. You won't see anything fall, you won't see bombs, but you will feel it. First there will be a taste, a metallic taste at the back of the tongue, like sucking on an old coin or like when you bite your lip and taste your own blood. Nostradamus says, blood will rise to the mouth without a wound. It is a plague not transmitted by touch, but by the need to breathe. Imagine the psychological terror of that. Knowing that every time you fill your lungs to survive, you are killing yourself a little more. He describes entire cities in southern Europe where the silence will be absolute. Not because people have left, but because no one dares to go out. Windows sealed with wax, wet rags under doors. The fear that a simple draft will bring the red dust into your house. Is it an ancient spore released from the sky? Is it a chemical weapon gone wrong? Nostradamus doesn't give us the cause. He was a doctor, not a general. He only gives us the diagnosis, and the diagnosis for 2026 is slow suffocation. Do you feel that tickle in your throat right now? It's probably just suggestion, probably the dust in your room. But when you go outside tomorrow and see that the sunset is a little redder than usual, ask yourself if the wind has changed direction, because air can cross borders without a passport. And if the air becomes our enemy, there's nowhere to hide. And speaking of things that respect no borders, the next danger doesn't travel through the air. It travels beneath the surface in the dark, icy silence of the ocean. The Iron Sea, the water. We think we know it. We see the surface, the waves, the white foam, and we think that's the sea. But Nostradamus, he looked deeper. He looked down into the perpetual darkness where the sunlight never reaches. In Century 2, there are verses that for centuries no one knew how to interpret. They speak of flesh fish, they speak of eyes that shine lifelessly in the abyss. The ancients thought he was speaking of leviathans, of mythological monsters, but you and I know the truth, and it's much worse than a monster. He was seeing machines. By 2026, the prophecy describes what I call the Iron Sea. I want you to close your eyes for a moment. Imagine you are descending. You go down 10 m, 100 m, 1000 m. The cold is unbearable. The pressure could crush a truck like a soda can. There is no light. It is absolute black, dense, pure ink. And down there, drones are waiting, swarms of autonomous vehicles asleep in the mud of the ocean floor. Nostradamus says, iron will silently await the command of lightning. The terrifying thing about this 2026 war is not the explosions, it's the waiting. These machines can be down there for months, motionless, silent, listening. Their processors analyze every vibration of the water. The engine of a merchant ship, the heartbeat of a whale, the propeller of an enemy submarine. There are no humans inside. No one to feel fear. No one to feel pity. There is only an algorithm, a line of code that says, if you detect X, destroy. Imagine the loneliness of dying like that. You are crossing the Atlantic. Think you're safe. But something below has awakened. A red eye flickers in the darkness. Without warning, without a declaration of war, the sea opens and swallows the ship whole. Nostradamus predicted that world trade would grind to a halt, that the shores would be littered with strange wreckage, twisted metal no one recognizes. The ocean would cease to be a path and become a wall, an invisible, cold, and lethal wall. It is the perfect war, the war where no one sees the enemy, where the killer is just a shadow beneath the waves. But for these machines to exist, someone has to give the order. Someone has to press the button that awakens the swarm. And Nostradamus has a name for that person, or rather, a title. Prepare yourself, because what comes next is not technology, it is pure ancient evil. The man with the smile. There is a name in this book that experts are afraid to utter aloud. For 500 years we have watched the first two pass by. They were beasts, wolves. They smelled of gunpowder and fear. You knew they were monsters just by looking at them. But the prophecy of the third Antichrist, the prophecy for our era, is different. Nostradamus warns us. He says that the third one will not come in a military uniform, he will not come shouting hatred from a podium. He calls him the seducer. I want you to take a moment to digest that. The final enemy of humanity will not frighten us, he will give us hope. Imagine the year 2026. The world is broken. The red wind has left us sick. The Iron Sea has collapsed the economy. You are afraid. You have no job. You don't know if you will be able to feed your family tomorrow. You are desperate. And then he appears. Nostradamus says, he will come under the cloak of peace and Venus. Venus, the planet of love, of charm, he will be a young, charismatic man. He will have a voice that, when you hear it, will make your shoulders relax. He will look at the camera and you will feel that he is looking at you, that he understands you. He'll tell you it's not your fault. He'll tell you he has the solution. He'll tell you that if you give him absolute power, he'll stop the suffering. Nostradamus wrote a key word, Mabus. Many believe it's an anagram, a code name, but what matters isn't his name, it's his poison. His poison is the word. He will unify the nations. Yes, but Nostradamus says his peace will be a gilded cage. He says people will kiss the chains he puts on them. Imagine turning on the TV in 2026 and seeing him and feeling for the first time in years that everything is going to be all right. Feeling a warmth in your chest, crying with gratitude. That is the moment of your death, not the death of your body, the death of your soul. Because behind that perfect smile, behind that viral speech you'll share with all your friends, Nostradamus sees an abyss. He prophesies a war that will last 27 years, a war that will begin after we've handed him the keys to the kingdom. It says that when the man with the smile shows his true face, blood will rain down like water and the sky will lose its color. And the question that keeps me awake at night as I translate these verses by candlelight isn't when he'll arrive. It's what if he's already here. And if you've already seen him, what if you're already following him? What if that person you admire so much is the leader who seems to be the only one with common sense in a world of madmen? He's the executioner Nostradamus saw 5 centuries ago. The deception is perfect because it doesn't seem like a deception, it seems like salvation and the earth. The physical earth knows his coming. Nature reacts to his presence. Nostradamus says his rise will coincide with the moment the ground becomes barren. When he walks, the grass dries up beneath his feet. That brings us to the 4th seal. The unending heat. The baked earth. Have you ever been so thirsty that your head hurts? I'm not talking about wanting a glass of water. I'm talking about that primal thirst. That thirst that makes your tongue feel like a piece of leather in your mouth. That thirst that makes you stop thinking like a human being and start thinking like an animal. For millennia, the sun has been our father. We painted it in caves. We prayed to it for bountiful harvests. We awaited summer with joy. But Nostradamus, in his quatrains for 2026, warns us of a betrayal. The father turns against his children. There is a vision in Century 5, quatrain 98. Read it with me. Slowly, to the climatic 48 degrees. At the end of such a great drought. 48 degrees. It is not a heat wave, it is an oven. Nostradamus is not describing a hot summer, he is describing an event where the atmosphere loses its ability to protect us. He calls it the baked earth. Imagine waking up in July 2026. The sun hasn't risen yet, but you are already sweating. The sheets cling to your body. The air in your room is stagnant, heavy. It smells of hot dust. You open the window seeking coolness, but what enters is fire. Nostradamus says the sky will lose its blue. He says it will turn white, a milky white, bright, blind, like the bone of a skull bleached by the sun. The light will cease to illuminate and will begin to wound. You go out into the street. The asphalt is speaking beneath your shoes. There are no birds. Why? Because Nostradamus wrote a line that haunts me. Fish in the sea, river, and lake, cooked. Imagine the smell. Rivers that have become threads of boiling mud. Fish floating belly up, their flesh dissolving, cooked in their own home. The stench of biological death, filling the air I try to breathe. Crops turn to ash in a matter of hours. Corn dries on the stalk, wheat becomes dust, and then the real nightmare begins, thirst. When the water runs out in the supermarkets, when the taps only spew air and rust, the mask of civilization falls away. Nostradamus warns that your neighbor will cease to be your friend. For a bottle of water, for a simple sip of clean liquid, you will see things you don't want to imagine. People will walk like sleepwalkers, chapped lips searching for shade where there is none. And the nights, God, the nights will bring no relief. The earth will have absorbed so much hatred from the sun during the day that at night it will radiate it upwards. The ground will be hot to the touch at 3 a.m. It's the fever. The planet has a fever, and we are the infection it's trying to burn. And just when you think you can't endure even 1 degree more, just when you're on your knees staring at that white, blind sky, begging for a cloud, a drop, anything, Nostradamus says you will see something fall from above, but it won't be water, it won't be rain, it will be the final blow, the cosmic hammer, the fire of the sky. Do you know what the only thing is that can stop a drought? The only thing that can silence a war? The only thing that can make us forget the Antichrist? Something bigger. Nostradamus saved the most beautiful and the most terrible vision for the end of 2026. Century 2, Quatrain 46. Century 1, Quatrain 84. He saw it, and I think his hand was trembling when he wrote it. The great star will burn for 7 days. The cloud will make 2 suns appear. Imagine that afternoon. We've had months of heat, the earth baked. You're exhausted, thirsty, your skin burns. You look at the ground, walking home, dragging your feet, and suddenly you notice something strange. Your shadows. You have 2 shadows. One is pale, cast by the sun we know, but the other is black, sharp, and points in the wrong direction. You look up, squint against the glare, and you see it. The sky has been ripped open. There is a second light in the firmament. A fiery wound. It's not round like the moon, it has a tail. It's a teardrop of plasma falling at 25,000 kilometers per hour. The news will say it's an asteroid, a downed military satellite, or a hypersonic weapon. They'll try to explain it with physics and mathematics. But Nostradamus, he knew the poetic truth. It is judgment. At first, it is silent. Light travels faster than sound. It is a mute ballet. You see the clouds evaporate in its wake, leaving a perfect hole in the atmosphere. You see the sky change from blue to violet and from violet to an oven orange. People will come out of their houses. The fights over water will end. The political arguments will end. Everyone, rich and poor, the soldier and the seducer, they will all do the same. They will stand still, staring upwards, mouths agape. Nostradamus says, the great city will be devastated by stones. Where will it fall? If it falls into the sea, it will raise a wall of boiling water that will erase the shores we know. If it falls on land, it will turn sand to glass and stone to dust. But at that moment, just before impact, you will not feel fear. You will feel how small we are. They say that when an object enters the atmosphere with such violence, the air is compressed so much that it screams. It is the sound of the sky tearing itself apart. The red wind made us sick, the sea isolated us, man lied to us, the sun burned us, and now the sky falls to put out the fire. Don't run, it's no use, just watch, it is the last sunrise you will see, and it is happening at sunset. And so the cycle closes. We have read the 5 warnings, the air, the sea, man, the sun, the sky. 500 years of dust separate us from the hand that wrote this. But tonight, as you listened, Didn't you feel that Nostradamus was he not writing about the future, but about our present? They say prophecies are warnings to change course, that the future isn't set in stone. But when I watch the news tomorrow, when I see the rising temperatures, when I see the tension at sea, when I hear the peace promises of leaders who smile too much, I have to ask you a question, one that will keep you up at night. What if Nostradamus wasn't warning us? What if he was simply giving us a spoiler? Don't keep this knowledge to yourself, share it, talk about it, because if 2026 is the end of the book, perhaps we should make the most of the few pages we have left.